And this is just a demo site for Passkey. And so I thought, hey, this is cool. I get to try this out. So what you do, okay, so this is a proxy for a site that you would go to that would support Passkey. And what you would do is you would establish your account. So the first thing you would do is you would register. So I'm going to click register. Well, I'm sorry, I'm going to enter a username first. I'm going to enter test of Passkey 4 because I've already used up 1 through 3. So I'm establishing, this is my username. So I just made this up because I wasn't, I didn't necessarily want to use my real email. Under normal circumstances, this would be your email or your phone number or whatever identifier would be used by the site that you were registering for. So essentially, I'm entering my username for this site. Now I'm going to click register. Now, I'll read it to you. This is being presented by the operating system, or by Safari and the Ventura operating system. And I have a choice to cancel, but it says, do you want to save a passkey for, quote, test of Passkey 4, quote, question mark. That's my username. Passkeys are saved in your iCloud keychain and are available for sign-in on all your devices. So below that is the fingerprint icon, and it says continue with Touch ID. So I have a Touch ID keyboard on my Mac Studio, so it has a fingerprint reader on it. So at this point, all I've done is I've entered a username into this site, and all I have to do is hold my finger on the Touch ID, which I'm doing now. It accepted it, it switched to done, and I'm done. That's it. So essentially at this point, I would be in the system. I'd be into the site, onto the website that I wanted to join. So that's all there is to it. I've entered a username. I did not enter a password. I was not asked for a password, and I just used my fingerprint to register. So let me show you how this would work now for coming back to this site. Okay, before I do that, I'm going to refresh this. Well, I'm going to refresh this page essentially by going to say sign in here, because what I demonstrated a moment ago was registering or establishing a new account on this site. Since I already have one, what I want to do is I want to sign in. So I keep let's sign in here. So I click that, and it says don't have an account, register here. But if I do have an account, which is the one I just established, I click sign in. I get the indication asking me if I want to sign in to Apple Passkey demo hanko.io with my saved passkey 4, and it tells me which one, test of Passkey 4. If I want to sign into the site, I put my fingerprint on the reader, which I just did. Now I'm logged into the site.
Nice.
So that's on this demo site. That's how it works, and it's just that simple. Now I was wondering whether this site was just throwing things away after a period of time. I didn't know really how it was behaving, so I thought I would. I tried to register again. Test of Passkey 4. And I get an error message that says account already registered, which is what you would expect, because the site would know you by your username, whether it's an email or or something else. And if someone else tried to use that username, that would be a problem. So this works as you would expect, since I've already used the username test of Passkey 4. Now, I was going to show you a couple other things about one other example, and then a behind the scenes look at something here. But I wanted to stop here before, to see if there were any questions at this point.
Okay, I have a question. Jim
I'll
Lambert.
make up an answer.
All right, all right. Well, what is it? I guess the question is the idea of this is another alternate way of logging into some account that you have with what? I mean, what's the basic idea of this?
Well,
I don't quite get what we're doing here.
Well, okay, the basic idea is to replace a password that you would need to log on to a website, to replace that with another form of authentication to the website that's triggered and activated by biometrics, like your fingerprint on a touch ID or a pad, or your Face ID, that kind of thing. So it's replacing passwords with an authentication process that doesn't require you, the user, to know a password, to remember a password, keep track of a password, or any of that. You simply use the same biometric identification to your device that you would use anyway.
Your fingerprint.
Or a Face ID. Or whatever else, or it actually supports, and I'll show you this in a minute, it actually supports hardware tokens as well, examples of which would be YubiKeys and other things that are hardware tokens.
And
so
do you download this from Apple? Where do you get this?
You don't get this, well, you don't download it, and that's a good question, Jim. Let me just say, what you need to operate with this right now is you need iOS 16, Ventura, which has not been released yet, Ventura, which has not been released yet, and you need a computer that will obviously support Ventura. My understanding is that those are the requirements from an Apple perspective, that what you need. You also need websites that will support this, and that's what's going to take a while.
And
so
Aaron
the site has to actually support it as well.
Yeah, Aaron has posted some in chat that are going to be supporting it: GoDaddy, eBay, PayPal, Carnival, Cloudflare, Microsoft, and NVIDIA. So those I'm just going to show in a minute. I'm going to show you an eBay example. So I did find a real life place, and Aaron has a longer list than I did, but I did find something to show you another real site. So this is essentially a demo, and that's really all there is to it. Jim, the other important part of your question, or the answer to your question, is that what this means, because I have behind the scenes, there's these encrypted unique tokens that are being established and sent from the website back and forth to the operating system. If the website gets hacked, there's nothing for them to lose that would be an issue here. There's no, even if your password was in the clear, well, even if the hacker got something from the website, they can't do anything with it because it's not going to work, because it can't substitute for the exchange that's happening between the website and the operating system that's authenticated biometrically. So it's a step forward in terms of security, and it's a step forward in terms of convenience for users who are, we're always forgetting our passwords and messing them up. So that's the idea. So it'll be a while before these sites roll this stuff out, but I think it's going to be interesting. So I have a couple other things to show, but I didn't want to rush through it if people had questions. Let's.
Well, Van, sorry. May I, Roy?
Yes, I was trying to
Yeah.
recognize your hand.
Sure, Van, I was just going to say the thing that surprised me was how similar the interface was to the iCloud way of suggesting and saving passwords. So that was pretty interesting to me. Anyway, that was my only observation, and so please go on with your. Unless you want, there are a couple of other hands up, I think.
Yep, a couple other hands up.
Okay.
Jerry, go ahead.
Yeah, I got a question. I have a relatively new laptop Pro with the fingerprint button on it. I have a relatively new iPad, the 5-inch one, with the button on it. And I find that the fingerprint thing is not reliable. I can hardly ever sign in with the fingerprint device. I don't know if that's because of my fingerprint or because of the devices. So what is the alternative if you start using this and you try to go into a site and your reader doesn't work, the fingerprint reader doesn't work? What then?
Well, let me mention a couple of things there. First of all, if your fingerprint reader isn't working, that probably is something sooner rather than later you ought to get looked at. But there are a couple other issues here. Let me show you the eBay example, and I can get to part of that question. But it also is a thing that could potentially weaken security. But they're different. Well, let me hold on. There's so many things to show. Okay, let me do a different thing here. Let me do a different thing here on this site. I'm going to sign in again. And it brings this box up, the one we've seen before, right? Do you want to sign in? But instead of continuing with Touch ID, which is my option, my default option, I can click, I don't know if you can read it, right underneath there, it says other sign-in options. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to click that. Now what comes up are three choices for me. One is the passkey that my browser knows that it just established a few minutes ago for this website. That's the one that's selected by default. So if I choose that, essentially that's using Touch ID. Does that make sense?
Yes.
The second option, well, let me skip that.
Mhm.
The third option is to use a security key. Uh-oh.
It just timed out.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah. The second option is to use, or the bottom option is to use a security key. And that's something you don't have to have. It's totally optional. There are vendors like Google and YubiKey and others that have these external devices that can authenticate you to your device. It's a substitute for a fingerprint or a Face ID. And sometimes there's a fingerprint ID built right into the external key. So if that's what you use, then this was the way you would use that to log in. The other alternative is to choose the middle one, which is to use an iPhone, iPad, or Android device that has a camera and log in with that. And this is what you would use in the library. I'm using their computer and I want to sign into this account. So what I do is I click sign in. Now I can't use Touch ID because it's not my computer, right? So I click other sign-in options. I choose the iPhone, iPad, or Android option, and I click continue. Now I'm going to have to describe this to you, so stay with me. I'm going to click continue. Now, do you see what appeared on the screen? A QR code?
Yeah.
Okay. It says, scan this QR code with a device running iOS 16 or later, or another compatible device to sign in to Apple Passkey Demo Hanko.io. All right. So what I'm going to do, and you have to take my word for it, I'm picking up my iPhone, I'm unlocking my iPhone and opening the camera. I'm pointing my camera at that QR code, and I get a pop-up right in the camera viewfinder that said, oops, hold on a minute. Takes, let me go back just so I don't mess it up. So I'm choosing that. I click continue and I get a QR code. I hold my camera on my iPhone up and I get a window that appears in the screen that says sign in with Passkey. I'm going to press that. I'm right up there. I just pressed that on my iPhone. And I'm going to say continue. When my iPhone asks me if I want to continue, I've now signed into the site.
Very good.
Dan, why don't we get to the other questions?
Sure. Yeah, I can't see that they're theirs. I'm sorry, so you have to tell me.
Yep. Alan, you're next.
Yeah, with the Touch ID as the authenticator, the fingerprint reader keyboards allow you to have up to 3 fingerprints for your ID. If you fail with one finger, can you use the second or third that are registered with your computer to authenticate with this?
I don't know, but I would certainly imagine that you could use whatever biometric would get you into your system would allow you to support, would be supported for this.
Sounds good. Thank you.
And I don't sue me, but
Well,
it's got to
no,
work. It's got to work that way.
Well, it's in beta. You can't sue somebody in beta.
That's a good test for beta though, but
I think I've actually, well, hold on. I'm going to hit sign in. I'm going to use a different finger.
Yep.
There, it worked.
Now, from a programming perspective, I would think it would recognize any going through the Apple code and set a flag of saying, yes, it's you.
Yeah, it's really what's happening is the operating system / browser is getting a signal back that this person has authenticated, and however you did that would be acceptable to the site.
Right. And before we go to Ralph, I was going to mention, even though this hasn't been released yet, I've noticed a lot of sites I sign into, I think particularly banks and things, but they are asking me whether I want to use Face ID, rather than logging in through the normal keychain, or whatever. So that's kind of interesting that it's kind of precursor. It's still using the Face ID to verify the password that you've got on tap, but
yep. I was going to show one other thing here because Aaron apparently had put in the chat, there's some real sites that use this, and I was looking for one, and eBay was one. So let me show you, this is eBay. And if you notice toward the upper left of the screen, it says hi Van.
mm-hmm.
That's actually just cookie based, I think. It's not, that doesn't mean I'm logged in. So it really doesn't know me at this point. I mean, it knows that my browser has been to this site. And so it's picking that up from a cookie, I'm pretty sure. But anyway, notice right next to my name, it says sign in. So if I click sign in there, I get this screen that says sign in. So I'm going to click sign in. I get presented, because I've set this up yesterday, I get presented with a message, do I want to sign into eBay using my saved passkey? I put my fingerprint on the reader.
Nice.
Now I'm signing in to eBay. Now I am signed in, and you notice up in the upper left, it knows that it's really me now.
Right.
What I really want to be able to do once I get comfortable with this is I want to take my password off the account. See, because if I leave my user ID and my password on the account, then I haven't really eliminated the password.
Right.
It's still there. And they're going to be reluctant to want me to take this away because they're going to want to give me a backup way to get into my account. Well, if they preserve that and if I keep it, then I've defeated one element of the security. I've got the convenience of using Passkey, but I don't necessarily have the security of using Passkey, if that makes sense.
Right.
Yes.
So
Okay. Jonathan has his hand up. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Yeah, my question. So, does the passkey also, I assume, substitute for 2FA, Van?
yes. Yeah, it actually becomes second factor. That's probably not precisely stated, but it actually becomes a second factor because it's something you have, you know, your face or your touch ID. The biometric becomes the substitute for the the second factor. And of course, it's so much more secure than an SMS message or something like that, where you have to key in a 6-digit code. Here, I found that on this screen. It was back on the next one. It was one level deeper. Notice here down toward the bottom, it says face/fingerprint/pin sign in. Use your face, fingerprint, or pin to sign in to our website. This doesn't affect signing into the eBay app. So they're very clear that the app has a different way in. But I can also, there's a place where I can turn this off. Well, it says turn off. I'm not clicking it at this point, but that's where I would turn this off if I didn't want to use that. What we're really going to need once this rolls out is we're going to need the opportunity to turn our passwords off and leave the other access process in effect.
Right.
Now, the last thing I wanted to show was what this looks like in Safari settings. So I'm going to go up to the upper left-hand corner, click Safari. I'm going to come down and choose Settings. I'm going to choose, not General or Tabs. I'm going to choose Passwords within the Safari settings. And I'm going to use my fingerprint to unlock the passwords. Then I'll point out that there are a couple of things in here. Do you see the item here? It says hanko.io. That's the passkey entry in my Safari password list. And it listed as a passkey. It shows that I created it today, and it shows the website that it's associated with. And that was the demo. So if you go to eBay, the passkey was created yesterday, and this is the passkey entry. I can edit either of these. I can change the username, which doesn't seem to really accomplish a lot at this stage. I could add a password. I don't know what the point is of that. I guess I could, if a site supported subsequently adding a password in addition to the face or the touch ID, I could do that. I could delete the passkey, and I can type a note here to myself that tells me what this passkey is all about, if it's not clear, if it's not self-evident. So let me just close this for a moment, go back, Hanko. I'll do this really quickly. I'm going to register a new account with Hanko.
So how many accounts do you now have with this website?
Well, this will be the fifth. This will be the fifth. This will be the fifth one.
Bless you, man.
Test the passkey 5. Well, I don't care about using those words. I wasn't trying to sprinkle my own email around, but test a passkey 5. So I'm going to register. Do I want to save a passkey for this? Test a passkey 5, blah, blah, blah. Yes, I'll use my touch ID to say, yes, I do. So I do that. Now I'm successfully signed in. Now I can sign out. Okay, here we go. Now I'm going to sign in. Now watch what happens here when I sign in. I get this box up, but notice there are now 2 entries there. this is coming from Safari. It says, do you want to log in using Passkey 4 or test of Passkey 5? So it recognized that I have both of those now. So I could have two accounts on this site, and I could have two distinct passkeys. And if I wanted to log in using account Passkey 5, I would choose that and my fingerprint. If I wanted to use 4, I would choose the first one and use my fingerprint and do that. So I can have multiple passkeys for the same site. So if I choose
Why
to
would
log
you want
in
to do that?
Well, let's say I have a site that I visit and I have two separate accounts with them. One of them is a personal account, and one of them is a work account.
Okay.
And I want to have, two separate sign-ins with them, as an example. I mean, there are probably a lot of other examples, but that could be one. Now, if I go back to Safari settings and I unlock my passwords, notice that there are now 2 entries for the Hanko site. Passkey 5 and test of Passkey 4.
Mm-hmm.
And I could edit and delete one of them or both of them, or do whatever I wanted to do with them. But that's where they're stored, and that's where you can see them in Safari settings. So
Okay.
that is it. Now I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but I can't figure out how to do that. I don't have the.
Oh, you should.
I know I'm not seeing the thing. I'm not seeing the.
The top of the screen.
Dan, I can turn it off.
Well done. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much for that presentation. Now we're all prepped for it. We're all more anxious to get the 16 updates.
I mean, as I said, sign me up whenever sites are there. I don't know. Aaron, you said Aaron listed some of them in the chat. I don't know whether he's had a chance to use this or not, but it's really pretty interesting stuff. I mean, I can't see a downside to it.
No, not at all.
Myself, I mean,
except if you're, not a downside, except if your devices aren't reading well or successfully. It's a little frustrating, but I haven't had any problem with my fingerprints, especially on the newer devices, which are kind of remarkable because even on like the iPad Air, it's just the on button that senses it, and it's so small, but it still does a great job.
Well, and you don't need to invest in a YubiKey or anything. If you do have another, if you happen to have another Apple device like a phone or an iPad, then if your fingerprint's not working, you could use the QR code and use your phone to log into the site, or your iPad. And all of those, I showed you those in Safari. I showed you the passkeys. They're immediately, I say immediately in quotes, they're immediately synchronized across your iOS devices.
Yeah.
So if I were to pick up, I won't do it, but if I were to pick up my phone now, I could actually use it to log on to that test of Passkey 5 item that I just created, because it would have already been synced to the device.
Jonathan, go ahead. You have your hand up.
Yes. No, Dan, didn't this start out with an announcement? Was it Apple and Google, or Apple and Microsoft, or Apple and Microsoft and Google? It seems like there is wide acceptance of this sort of biometric thing. So does that mean it'll be accessible? I saw something about on Android devices and using other browsers and stuff.
Yeah, one of the things, my understanding right now, all I can do with it is use Safari. I can't use a Chrome browser or a Firefox or something on my Mac. It's not supported right now, but more and more and more support will in fact, presumably eventually come. Now, whether Apple chooses to restrict this on their devices to only the Safari browser, I don't know. But that QR code approach that I demonstrated, in theory, that works if I had an Android phone that had a biometric on it. I could use my Android camera to view the QR code and then use the biometric Face ID or Touch ID on the Android phone to log into the site. So that would be, you know, yeah, that's definitely part of the protocol.
Yeah, thanks so much for the demo, Dan. That was terrific.
One more thing you can do, and I was reading the Ventura Take Control book, and he said, we don't recommend this, but what you can do is you can actually share the passkey. If
Wow.
when I was showing you the passkey in the Safari settings, and if I clicked on it, there was a share button there in the corner. You probably didn't notice it. There was actually a share button, and I could have clicked that, and I could have airdropped that passkey to, say, my wife.
Right.
And if she accepted it, that passkey would then be on her, you know, she'd have access to that passkey. And I mean, that would be the equivalent of sharing a password or, you know, whatever, but you have to be a little bit careful with that. Now, there's no reason to do that from your own device to your own device because it's going to sync automatically.
Right. Yeah,
Thanks for your patience, everybody.
yeah, just